Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and we're producing this episode for GoodCrowd.info. And we have a tremendous guest today. Ken Martin is the co-founder of Honeycomb Credit, and I am so excited about what they're doing. You do not want to miss this episode.
Welcome to Your Mark on the World, bringing you another change maker with champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.
This episode is made possible via the support of our sponsors, including Johnson & Johnson's Caring Crowd. Ken, welcome to the show.
Hello, Devin.
We're thrilled to have you and so excited to talk about what you're doing at Honeycomb Credit. So much of the energy and excitement in the crowdfunding space in the United States has been around equity. But the real opportunity may be in the debt markets, and that's where you're working. Tell us a little bit about Honeycomb Credit.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Devin. I think equity crowdfunding is a great product and has a very important purpose. But we're doing something different at Honeycomb Credit. So basically, what we are is we're a fintech platform where investors can log on, search for investment opportunities that are debt opportunities. From local businesses. And the reason that's important is Main Street America is our focus. And therefore, the equity product is probably not the best product for Main Street America. And the example we like to give is, what would you do with 7 shares of your local hardware company, right? Equity crowdfunding is just not the right product for Main Street America. So we're doing something different at Honeycomb Credit.
Well, and Main Street America is such a big part of the economy. And so many small businesses are struggling to find financing. There's almost no way to get it for some of them.
I agree with you there, Devin. We look at Federal Reserve surveys, we look at, other research in the market, and it's an opportunity in the hundreds of billions of dollars, just completely underserved. And it's not just an opportunity loss, it's really hurting Main Street America. And so that's really the core mission behind Honeycomb Credit. And we're very excited to actually bring that back to the market.
Well, and the opportunity for investors as well, especially for those of us who haven't been making a lot of private equity investments. The idea of investing in an equity, or even, what's so common in the equity world in crowdfunding is, a SAFE. A simple agreement for future equity. And what even is that? That's somebody's promise to give you equity in the future. It's a scary investment to even understand what that means. And once you do, you're not much more comforted by it, is the fact of the matter. It's a very risky structure. A debt instrument from a cash flowing business seems so much safer, and a great way, I hate to call it training wheels, but it's crowdfunding investment for the beginner in many ways.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there. I think the real big sea change was regulation crowdfunding, which you and your viewers probably are aware of. But in brief, it really opened this opportunity to all people in the country, not just your super rich accredited investors, but now everyone in the country can participate in investing local.
You've got a couple of deals already on the platform. Let's talk about each of them for just a minute in turn. But the first one is Millie's Ice Cream Truck. Tell us about Millie's Ice Cream Truck. I'm fascinated by this one.
Yeah, so both our deals are excellent and really represent kind of the type of investment that we think we'll be having going forward. Millie's in particular, you're right. It's a well-known local chef who's had success in other areas. Started an artisan ice cream shop that is just very popular in Pittsburgh, has kind of built upon that success to open multiple different locations, and basically came to us with an interesting idea. He said, let me build upon what I've already been doing well at Millie's by opening a food truck, or kind of a renovated delivery truck that can bring my product all over the community in places where it wouldn't make sense to open a permanent storefront. And we thought, what a perfect opportunity to kind of showcase what crowdfunding can be used for, which is not just, opening a new project, but actually changing our communities in a positive way.
So I was excited to see that they set the target. The goal on the crowdfunding raise was 10 grand, and they got, so far, you're still taking investments, $38,000. I mean, that's a huge success.
Absolutely. Especially for, the first couple of campaigns, we wanted to make sure that, we made the right choices and did campaigns that resonated with the community and would be successful, of course. And we've just been overwhelmed with the success of that campaign. In such a short amount of time, they reached their goal in only 5 days. And as you've noticed, have just continued to build upon that success. Which is, just very indicative of the thesis of Honeycomb Credit, which is if you provide people with the opportunity to invest local, that's the first avenue they have to unleash that kind of unkept demand, basically.
So what are they going to do with all the extra money?
So basically what we do with our companies we work with is we set a minimum and a maximum. The maximum is oftenly dictated by their actual cash flow after debt service. So we want to make sure we're making financially responsible decisions, in partnership with our companies. Then the minimum is basically dictated by what's the minimum amount they need to actually make their expansion project succeed. What's very unique about Honeycomb and different from other crowdfunding websites is we're very much driven around specific expansion projects. So understanding that project, understanding the needs of that project is how we set that minimum.
Well, it's exciting to see the tremendous success there. Now, you also have a company called the Pittsburgh Juice Company on the platform. It's raising money. They haven't quite reached their goal yet. Tell us a little bit about that opportunity.
Yeah, another amazing local company. And I think both are, again, a very good slice of kind of the types of companies that we think are successful with Honeycomb. So the Pittsburgh Juice Company is a locally owned business in Pittsburgh by a woman entrepreneur named Naomi. She has also had success with her concept, opened her first store and was just overwhelmed with the demand. And basically over some time has developed partnerships with other businesses around Pittsburgh to start distributing her juice to those locations. And so basically what she needed was a refrigerated delivery truck to safely and efficiently send this juice to other locations with these new partnerships. And so she came to us and said, what a perfect opportunity. This is something that will not only help my customers, it'll help my business, it'll help the community as well. And she's already had a lot of success in her campaign, and we expect her to complete it successfully.
Let's talk about some of the hard issues here. How are the loans priced? And let's use these two examples. Where are these two loans priced? Looks like 8% for Millie's and 8.25% for the Pittsburgh Juice Company, right?
That's exactly correct, yeah. So basically what our team does is there's a two-part underwriting process. And this is what we sometimes refer to as the secret sauce for Honeycomb Credit. If you think about taking a step back, what community banks always did very well, was they mixed a quantitative underwriting approach with a qualitative underwriting approach. And for decades and centuries, community banks have done this very well for Main Street small businesses. What's happened since then is because of consolidation, we lose one community bank per day in the United States. So those lending decisions, those underwriting decisions no longer happen in communities. As that has happened, it's become a very quantitative only type of underwriting decision. So basically fast forward to Honeycomb Credit. So we bring that marriage of quantitative and qualitative back at scale using technology. So first step is our team will do a quantitative based underwriting, similar to what other fintech players or large national banks would do. And we basically look at the financial characteristics and set an interest rate that would be responsible for the business in terms of their cash flow needs. Then the second part is extremely important to us. We then allow the campaign to go live and let their customers and community vote with their wallets. Now, if a campaign is not successful, that's a major risk indicator. And so therefore, that's how we bring that qualitative gut check back at scale, something that community banks used to do very well for decades.
It's exciting to think about this, but how will you take that model, that qualitative side, and replicate that so that you're operating outside of just the Pittsburgh area? How are you going to do that?
Yeah, so we talk about building communities one small business at a time, but when we say the word community, we don't just mean geography. So to know whether something is a good fit in terms of a qualitative analysis, it doesn't just mean you have community members that are geographically close to you. So let me give you an example of that. So I grew up in Dallas, Texas. Even though I haven't lived in Dallas for many years, I still have ties to that community. I care about what happens in that community, and I generally know what happens in that community. So when something happens there, even though I'm not geographically close, I have an opinion, I have ties. We see Honeycomb in a similar way, where community can definitely mean geography, but community can also mean interest group. It can mean affinity group. It can mean hobbies and clubs. And so therefore, these are the constituents, so to speak, of a small business that will have an opinion that we think is relevant. So now any one individual's opinion might not be enough to tip the scale, but when a whole community votes with their wallets, to us, that's a risk indicator worth looking at.
Now, one of the challenges that I see is that you're going to have some businesses that are not ready for debt, and yet they're going to come to you. How do you sort that out? How would you prepare early stage companies for the feedback they'll get from you?
Yeah, it's a very interesting point, because we also are clear with our companies, not every company is ready for a Honeycomb loan or a Honeycomb relationship. I think that's very true. So where we think about ourselves is, if you are first starting off and you're a brand new company with very little revenue or very little track record, something like Kickstarter or Indiegogo might be the more appropriate starting place for you. Also, Kiva does amazing work helping small businesses, sometimes with an impact goal, helping them get started with very small $5,000 and $10,000 loans. So for many businesses that come to us now and in the future, that's the right place to start. Even personal capital might be the right place to start. So we view ourselves as the logical next step after that. With community banks disappearing, there's really a void that has opened up, between that Kickstarter, Kiva initial phase, and then a large national banking relationship. That big void in the middle is where Honeycomb likes to play. And so you're right. Many businesses might not be ready for a Honeycomb loan.
Now, Reg CF will allow you to help companies raise up to $1.07 million. $1,070,000, if I understand the rule. And right now, your two issuers are in the tens of thousands of dollars range. Where do you see yourselves operating going forward? Are you always going to serve this small market? Will you move upstream in addition, or stay where you are?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, the way we view this as, the need is greatest among the sub $100,000 loan size. So I referenced before market research and Federal Reserve credit surveys. If you look at those very carefully, that's where the market is telling us that the biggest need is, the sub $100,000 loan. Other fintech players have attempted to serve this space, and they in their own way attempt to serve it. And then obviously larger banks can serve that kind of larger, $100,000, $200,000 size. But that sub 100,000, that's what Main Street America needs, and that's where our focus is. So now to answer your question, initially most of our capital is retail, and Reg CF was a major sea change that allowed us to do that. Over time, we're building relationships and partnerships with bigger financial institutions that would like to deploy capital to Main Street America, but right now don't have the means or mechanisms to do it profitably. We believe over time, we can prove that our model is a great vehicle for institutions to deploy capital towards Main Street America.
Fantastic. Well, Ken, you had a stellar career and more education than I even dare talk about. I think, London School of Economics, was it Harvard or Yale? I mean, my heavens.
Yeah, Georgetown and Dartmouth, yeah.
Yeah, super well educated. What's the key lesson that you've learned so far in your career?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and frankly, one I wasn't prepared for. So let me think about that. I think honestly, the thing that jumped into mind first is I would actually say the whole Honeycomb team has their own unique experiences, very well educated, both traditionally but also practically. And so to me, the answer to your question is, being able to assemble a team of complementary skills, all of whom are very smart and hardworking people, but making sure you complement each other and having the right skill set to move the company forward. I've been very impressed in just a short amount of time with our management team and our founding team about how many different experiences that we've put together that have been just the exact right founder market fit for Honeycomb Credit.
That is really cool. You obviously had launched a tremendously successful career in a more traditional sort of Wall Street kind of path. What caused you to rethink, reset, and focus on this opportunity? Yeah,
it's a great question too. You're correct that I had a very good and rewarding career in investment banking. Spent time in London, South Africa, New York City, and that's an amazing skill set and an amazing set of experiences that I was fortunate to have. But along the way, I realized my passion is company building. I enjoy the work of actually building and scaling something, assembling teams, building products. I think that was very interesting. I started to do that on a nonprofit basis in Africa, then returning to the United States, realized I could continue that work, in the U.S. And so, in a nutshell, kind of left Wall Street for Main Street and had a couple different unique experiences to actually found Main Street small businesses.
Well, we're glad you're here. Now, Ken, what is your superpower?
That's a very good question. I think feedback I get very consistently is I love to build relationships. And I think for a company like Honeycomb, which relies on building those one-on-one relationships with small business owners, I think that cannot be understated. A lot of people will point out that small businesses, selling services to small businesses is a very challenging market, and I agree with that. That's not only true for loans, that's true for all services. So to me, the key has always been those interpersonal connections. As a former small business owner, I've sat around the kitchen table, sometimes in a very bleak way, trying to figure out how do we make payroll this week? How do we handle this challenge or that challenge? So having, the scar tissue to prove that really helps me build those relationships with small business owners. And I think it's really the proof is in the pudding in terms of the BD efforts, business development efforts we've had so far.
Well, this is exciting stuff. And Ken, we're thrilled that you're at this. This is a potential game changer for investors and small business owners alike. Before you go, and we thank you for coming, tell us how people can learn more about Honeycomb Credit and how they can connect with you personally. Yeah. The best thing to do is to check out our website. So honeycombcredit.com. What you'll find there is a few different things. One is a blog where you can learn about kind of in real time, what do we think about crowdfunding? What do we think about Main Street America? What do we think about fintech? And I think people might enjoy learning our thoughts on that and finding ways that they can get involved. Also on the website, they can see our live campaigns. They can click onto it, search different campaigns, find out what we're up to in terms of helping actually build communities one small business at a time. Fantastic. Well, Ken, we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today, and we wish you every success in growing small businesses across the country. Great. Thank you, Devin. All righty. Let's do some good.
At Caring Crowd, we believe everyone has the power to make a difference. Through our crowdfunding platform for community health, we empower passionate people to drive real change. Whether you work for a nonprofit organization, volunteer, or want to get involved for the first time, you can post a campaign on Caring Crowd. Join us, because caring is where change begins.
Thank you for listening. This podcast is available at youtube.com/Devin Thorpe. Subscribe to this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes by searching for Your Mark on the World. Every weekday, Devin hosts a CEO, celebrity, entrepreneur, or other changemaker here on the Your Mark on the World show to inspire and prepare you to make your mark. Devin is a champion of social good, writing about, advocating for, and advising people who are doing good. He is a Forbes contributor who is a recognized thought leader in social entrepreneurship, impact investing, and crowdfunding. To book Devin as a speaker, visit devinthorpe.com.